A year ago, life felt simple. Not great, not amazing, just stable. I was living just outside Denver, working remote as a back-end developer for a mid-sized SaaS startup. Paid decently. Rented a one-bedroom that didn't leak. Ate lunch at my desk. I wasn't chasing much. Honestly, I thought I'd already won the quiet version of life. Then came Gabriella. She was the kind of woman who made you forget your own name when she walked into a room. Quick wit, that Italian East Coast charm, confident, like she'd already argued with 5 judges before lunch. She was a junior prosecutor, then freshly transferred from New Jersey. We met at a mutual friend's game night and clicked instantly. We were that couple by month 3. The ones people roll their eyes at in a half-jealous, half-sweet way. 6 months in, we moved in together. 10 months in, I proposed. Quiet dinner on my apartment rooftop. Just the two of us, city lights in the distance, whine her laughing through tears when I pulled the ring from my jacket. She said yes. I thought that was the moment my life changed. Nah. The real shift came 8 months later, and not in a way I'd wish on anyone. Last week, it started with a knock. It was a Saturday. I'd just finished fixing the Wi-Fi router for the 3rd damn time that month and sat down with some leftover Thai food. Gabriella was out visiting her mom across town, which already put me on edge because her mom was a lot. Think Real Housewives, but if they were also running a campaign office. Then I heard the knock. Well, more like pounding. I opened the door and saw her. Gabriella. Standing there with her arms crossed, eyes, red lips pressed so tight it looked painful. I blinked. Hey. She cut me off. Who the fuck is she? I swear my brain froze. What? She shoved her phone in my face. Blurry photos. Me. Outside of some restaurant. With Sarah, a coworker from the dev team. I'd told Gabriella about that lunch like twice. We talked about server issues and annoying client tickets over sushi. That was it. No hug, no hand-holding, nothing sketchy. I looked back up at her. You're serious right now? You didn't tell me about lunch. Why not? I did. I literally mentioned it last Thursday. Sarah's the back-end engineer. Bullshit, Ethan. You're sneaking around. I knew something was off. I felt like the floor dropped out. My stomach sank, heart raced, but my mouth just dry. I tried to stay calm, but every word I said made her glare harder. I didn't cheat on you, I said quietly. What the hell is going on? She stared at me like I'd slapped her. You're lying. No matter what I said, it didn't land. She wanted me to be the bad guy. Like this whole thing had been rehearsed. Like someone had been whispering poison in her ear and she finally drank it all down. That's when it hit me. Is this your mom? I asked. She show you these pictures? Gabriella didn't answer. She didn't have to. Flashback the first warning signs. I should have seen it earlier. Her mom hated me. Not in the loud screaming way. No, she was polished. Passive-aggressive. Behind a glass of white wine, she'd smile and say, "Shti, like, you're so humble." Gabriella always did like projects. Her dad, Vincent DeLuca, state senator. Old money Catholic roots, borderline mafioso energy wrapped in a $5,000 suit. He never said much, but when he looked at me, I always felt like I was being measured and coming up short. The brothers useless, loud, obsessed with protecting her like she couldn't think for herself. But I loved her, so I brushed it off. Back to, now the ambush. The yelling escalated fast. I told her to sit down, that we could talk. She refused. Then she said it. I don't even know who you are. That one hit, like a brick. I'd given this woman everything, my loyalty, my time, my future. And now I was just a stranger. Before I could respond, there was another knock at the door. No, a bang. 3 shadows outside. She didn't even flinch. Her dad and her 2 brothers stormed in like a SWAT team. I barely had time to say what the hell before her older brother shoved me. Her dad got in my face. You broke her heart, you piece of shit. I didn't do anything. And just like that, the first punch landed. I got jumped in my own apartment. And she watched. I wish I could say I fought back. I tried, but it was 3-on-1. Fists, kicks, furniture getting knocked over. I hit the floor, tried to cover my face. My ribs took a beating. And Gabriella stood in the corner, arms crossed, blank. Not a single word. Not a stop. Not a, what are you doing? Just watched. Finally, her dad said, that's enough. On the way out, he pointed at me, still bleeding on the floor, and said, Next time I won't stop at bruises. Gabriella looked at me once. You're lucky they didn't break your legs. Then she was gone. I laid there for what felt like forever, body aching. Lip split, lamp broken, dignity shattered. I didn't cry. I didn't yell. I just stared at the ceiling. This wasn't about jealousy or even love. This was about control, about manipulation, about power. When I finally reached my phone, my first call wasn't to Gabriella, wasn't to my boss, wasn't even to the cops. I called my friend Jason. He showed up 20 minutes later and drove me to the ER. The doctor asked what happened. I just said, "Fiance's family didn't like me much." He nodded like he'd heard that line before. Bruised ribs, mild concussion, scratches down my back. Nothing broken except maybe my faith in people. But I wasn't going to let it end there. Screw that. The next morning, I woke up sore as hell in Jason's guest room. Every breath hurt. My jaw felt like it had been dislocated, then snapped back into place by accident. I looked like I lost a bar fight with a truck. Jason made me eggs, but I couldn't chew anything without wincing. He didn't push me to talk, just slid my phone over like, "Your move." I stared at it for a while. There were already texts. Gabriella, of course, said nothing. But her brother, the same one who kicked me while I was down, had the balls to message. "Hey man, we were just looking out for Gab. Let's not drag this out." Are you kidding me? What kind of twisted protective move ends with 3 grown men jumping someone in his living room? I was pissed, but not surprised. What did surprise me came later that afternoon. I got a call from Uncle Lou. Yeah, that Uncle Lou, Gabriella's dad's younger brother. The guy who never talked during family dinners, always stayed in the background, barely made eye contact. Honestly, I'd forgotten he even existed. He left a voicemail, calm voice, just said, "Ethan, I think we need to talk, alone." I called him back mostly out of curiosity. He asked if I could meet him at this diner on the edge of town. Real old school spot. Neon sign, cracked vinyl booths, that kind of place. I was skeptical, but whatever. I figured if they were sending more people to finish the job, they wouldn't ask me to bring myself to the trap. So I went. And yeah, that's when HT got real. Lou was already sitting in a booth when I got there, sipping black coffee like he didn't just invite me to the strangest meeting of my life. He looked up, nodded, and slid a small envelope across the table. Inside USB stick, no explanation. I raised an eyebrow. "Is this where you tell me there's a hit on my head, or?" He shook his head. "You need to see what's on it. But I'll tell you what you're about to see so it doesn't shock you." Cool, great, love that. Then he leaned forward and said, "This wasn't some misunderstanding. You were framed." I actually laughed out loud. Because, like, no shit, but also, that word hit different. Framed. Not suspected. Not misunderstood. Set up. He went on. Apparently, Gabriella's mom had been working behind the scenes for months to restructure her daughter's romantic future. Said I wasn't a good look, not a good investment. Vincent DeLuca, state senator, remember, had a big re-election coming up, and their daughter marrying some middle-class coder with no political clout didn't exactly scream campaign gold. They wanted her with someone else. Some rich Princeton guy whose family owns a string of luxury real estate in Miami. Of course. So what did they do? They hired a PI, but not to spy on Gabriella. No. To follow me. To catch me doing something sketchy. Only I wasn't giving them anything. No drinking, no clubs, no late-night girls. Just coding and sushi. So they manufactured it. Lou told me the PI took dozens of photos. Blurry, misleading ones. They cherry-picked the worst angles. Me laughing with Sarah. Me walking next to her car. Me paying the bill. Put it together, sprinkle in a little paranoia, and boom, instant scandal. But that wasn't the worst part. What really blew my mind, they showed Gabriella the photos after spending a week planting doubts in her head. Whispering things like, "You sure he's being faithful? And isn't he working a lot of late nights lately?" They groomed her to react exactly the way she did, and she fell for it. That was the hardest part to swallow. She didn't even ask. No confrontation, no, "Hey, this looks weird," just full-on accusation and greenlighting a beatdown. I left that diner furious, like blackout fuming. My hands were shaking on the steering wheel, but under all that, I was laser-focused. Because now, I had proof, and I had nothing left to lose. So I did what every rational angry man should do after being assaulted and publicly humiliated. I lawyered the hell up. 2 days later, I sat down with Amira, my friend from college who now worked as a civil attorney. I laid it all out. The photos, the beating, the USB, everything. She listened dead quiet the whole time, then leaned back and said, "This isn't just assault. This is conspiracy." I'll be honest, hearing someone say that out loud gave me chills. We filed a police report that day. Full medical records, photos of my injuries, voice memos, texts, the USB drive. The detective assigned to the case barely hid his expression as he scrolled through the evidence. This is something. No promises, of course, but they said they'd launch an investigation immediately. Meanwhile, word must have gotten around fast. Because suddenly, Gabriella's family remembered I existed. Her dad called, left a voicemail. "Let's not escalate this. We can handle it like adults." "Yeah, that didn't stop you from escalating with your fists last week, buddy." One of the brothers texted me. "We might have overreacted. Sorry, man." I didn't even reply. What's the point? But Gabriella, she sent a wall of text. New number, long paragraphs, crying emojis. Stuff like, "I didn't know the full story. My mom convinced me. I feel so stupid. I just want to explain." Too late. She chose to believe them without even looking at me. She chose to stand there while I got jumped in my own fucking apartment. You don't get to play the "I was confused" card now. It didn't stop there. A few days after that, Gabriella's cousin, some guy I'd maybe spoken to twice at family dinners, showed up at my office parking lot. Said he just wanted to talk. I asked if he was sent or if this was his own weird idea. He shrugged. "Look, they feel awful. They're willing to pay your medical bills. Maybe throw in a settlement. Just drop the charges." I laughed, right in his face. "You think this is about money?" He held up his hands like I was the unreasonable one. "No one wants a trial. It's bad for everyone." I shook my head. "Tell your family I don't want their fucking money. I want accountability." Then I got in my car and left him standing there like a confused side character in a bad soap opera. Behind the scenes, the police were working fast. Turns out that USB stick had more than I realized. Texts between Gabriella's mom and the PI. Payment receipts. Even audio clips of her planning the confrontation suggesting exactly what Gabriella should say. The detective called me one night and said, "This is textbook conspiracy and incitement." They issued warrants. Her dad, both brothers, and her mom were arrested within days. Assault and conspiracy to commit assault. Interference with an ongoing investigation. One of the brothers even tried to fight the cops' real genius move. Gabriella wasn't arrested, but her reputation wrecked. Turns out when your entire legal career hinges on your integrity and your name starts showing up in public court documents, people notice. The day after her family's arrest made headlines, she showed up at my building. Didn't even knock, just waited by the entrance like a ghost. I almost walked past her, but something in her face made me stop. Not guilt, not even sadness, just exhaustion. "I didn't know," she whispered. I looked her dead in the eye. "You didn't ask." That was the last time I ever saw her in person. No dramatic closure, no final kiss, just silence. And honestly, that felt louder than anything else. The court stuff didn't kick in right away. That's what no one tells you. It's not like in movies where people get dragged off in handcuffs and next week you're in court giving speeches. Nah, it's paperwork, hearings, reschedules, discovery, and more paperwork. Meanwhile, you're expected to go on with life like you weren't just assaulted in your own living room and framed for cheating. I tried to keep my head down. Went back to work, started sleeping on the couch in Jason's place until I could find a new spot. My old apartment couldn't stand being in there. Every time I looked at the coffee table, I remembered the way her brother slammed me into it. Every dent in the wall felt like a scar. But I wasn't broken. I was pissed and focused. My lawyer, Amira, kept me in the loop. She was a machine. Cold, methodical, sharp as hell. She started putting together a timeline. Every message. Every phone call. Every photo. She compiled it all into one massive evidence folder with section headers like premeditation, coordination, physical harm. It was brutal in the best way. Then one morning I woke up to a new email from her. Subject line, "They're cracking." Apparently, Gabriella's mom, the mastermind herself, had already tried cutting a deal. Her lawyer submitted a plea proposal. Less jail time in exchange for testifying against her own husband and sons. Wild. The woman who orchestrated the whole thing was now ready to throw her own family under the bus to save herself. Amira called me and said, "You want poetic justice? It doesn't get better than watching a manipulative matriarch flip on her own blood." I wanted to feel satisfied, but mostly I just felt hollow. Because even with all this happening, a part of me kept going back to her. Gabriella. I wasn't still in love with her. Not after everything. But there was this stupid ache in my chest, this how the hell did we get here kind of pain. I didn't miss her. I missed the version of her that existed before all this, the woman who used to curl up on my chest on Sunday mornings and trace circles on my ribs while we talked about our future dog. But she let me get destroyed without even blinking. That version, she never existed. That realization hit hard. A few weeks before the trial, I got a text from an unknown number. I shouldn't have opened it. But curiosity is a bitch. It was Gabriella. She said, "I know I'm the last person you want to hear from, but I need to talk, just once. I need you to understand everything, please." I didn't reply, not immediately. I forwarded the message to Amira and asked if meeting her would screw anything up legally. She said as long as I didn't go alone and didn't agree to anything without counsel, it was fine. So I said fuck it. We met at a neutral spot, some cafe in the middle of the city where neither of us had history. I brought Jason with me. He sat at a nearby table, earbuds in, pretending not to listen, but 100% ready to jump in if things got weird. She walked in looking like someone who hadn't slept in a month. Hair a mess. Dark circles under her eyes. Nothing like the put-together courtroom-ready version of her I remembered. She sat across from me and just stared for a second. Then she said, "I'm sorry." I didn't say anything. She kept going. I didn't know what they were planning. I swear, my mom, she's always been like that. Controlling, manipulative. I thought I was doing the right thing by trusting her. I thought she was trying to protect me. I looked at her finally. "You thought I cheated, and your first move was to send your family to beat the SHT out of me." Her face twisted. "No, I mean yes, but I was angry. I felt betrayed. I was scared." Scared of what? The truth, scared to ask me. Scared to use your own brain instead of being a puppet for your mom. That shut her up. She blinked fast like trying not to cry, but I wasn't in the mood for tears. "You know what hurt the most," I said. "Not the bruises. Not even the betrayal. It was looking up from the floor while your brothers were kicking me and seeing you just stand there. Like I was nothing. Like I deserved it." She sniffed. "I didn't know what to do." "You did nothing. That was your choice." There was a long silence, the kind that feels heavy in the air. "I wish I could take it back," she whispered. I shook my head. "You can't. And even if you could, I wouldn't want you to. I'm done being someone you learn from." Then I got up, nodded at Jason, and walked out. She didn't follow. Trial day came. The courtroom was packed. Press was there. Apparently, people love a political scandal involving a golden family with a reputation for being squeaky clean. Gabriella didn't testify. She was subpoenaed but refused to speak against her family, even with the plea deal her mom had taken. I guess loyalty finally kicked in too little too late. I took the stand, told them what happened step by step. My voice didn't shake. I didn't dramatize anything, just facts. Photos of my bruises. Screenshots of the texts. Audio clips of Gabriella's mom coaching her. Security footage from the hallway, her family charging into my building. The courtroom was dead silent by the time I was done. Amira killed it. The prosecution nailed every angle. The jury didn't take long. Guilty, all of them. Her dad and both brothers got prison time for aggravated assault and conspiracy. Her mom got the same but shorter since she cooperated. When the sentencing was read, none of them looked at me. Not once. Just stared straight ahead like statues. Gabriella was sitting in the back row. She looked at me, really looked at me, and I saw it. The moment she realized everything she let fall apart wasn't coming back. I didn't nod, didn't smirk. I just walked out of that courtroom with my lawyer, my friend, and my peace. Life didn't magically become perfect after that. I had nightmares for weeks. Couldn't look at any photos of us without this sick pit in my stomach. Therapy helped. Time helped more. Eventually, I moved to a new place. got a better job offer with a new team somewhere that didn't remind me of sushi lunches and betrayal. I stopped checking her social media. She stopped trying to reach out. We became what we were always meant to be, nothing. And that felt like winning. One night, a few months later, I was out grabbing drinks with Jason and some coworkers. Someone brought up dating, and one guy asked what my last serious relationship was like. I laughed. Then I said, ever seen a political campaign try to frame you for cheating and send a hit squad of in-laws to beat your ass in your own apartment? No. Well, buckle up. Everyone went quiet for a second. Then one girl raised her glass. To Ethan, survivor of the DeLuca dynasty. We clinked glasses. And for the first time in what felt like forever, I felt light again. About a month after the trial ended, I got this email from a local podcast called Truth and Fallout. They were running a special on political scandals in Colorado, and apparently my case had become a kind of urban legend. The tech guy who took down a senator. They wanted me on the show. At first, I laughed and deleted the message. No way. I wasn't some influencer out here trying to milk a trauma story for clout. But the more I thought about it, the more something inside me stirred. This wasn't just about me anymore. I'd gotten a dozen DMs since the court case, strangers reaching out, people saying my ex's family did the same thing to me, or my mom made me cut off someone I loved and I still regret it. Apparently, betrayal like this wasn't rare, just quiet. So I emailed the podcast back and said yes. We recorded the episode in a small studio downtown. Low lights, 2 mics, water bottles. The host, Kaylee, was sharp and surprisingly chill. She didn't sensationalize anything. Just let me talk. I told the story start to finish. From the moment Gabriella walked into my life to the moment I walked out of that courtroom free. When I described the assault, Kaylee paused and said softly, and she just stood there. I nodded, like I was a stranger on a TV screen, not her fiancé. When the episode dropped, it blew up. Like really blew up. Reddit threads, TikToks, even a YouTube recap video titled, "She Let Her Family Beat Him," then asked for a second chance. I thought I'd be embarrassed, but nah, it felt like reclaiming something. People reached out, some just to say they believed me. Some to share their own horror stories. Some just to say, dude, respect. And then one message changed everything. It was from a woman named Alea. Not a fan, not some groupie trying to slide in after the drama. She was a therapist who ran group sessions for survivors of emotional abuse and family manipulation. She'd heard the episode and asked if I wanted to speak at one of her workshops. Nothing formal, she said. Just talk about how you kept your sense of self. I almost didn't reply, but something about the way she phrased it got to me. Not how you fought back, not how you exposed them, just how you stayed you. So I agreed. The workshop was held at this community center that smelled like cinnamon tea and laminate flooring. About 20 people showed up. Most just listened, sipping coffee, nodding when something hit too close. I told them about Gabriella, her family, the manipulation, the moment she crossed the line and never came back. One guy raised his hand and asked, "How did you not spiral? I think I would have lost it completely." I thought for a second and said I did spiral. For a while. But eventually I realized what they broke wasn't my spirit, it was my illusion. And honestly, that was overdue. There were some quiet hums. People writing things down. After the session, Alea pulled me aside. "You have no idea how many people needed to hear that," she said. That night, I walked out of that building feeling something I hadn't felt in a long time. Not just peace. Purpose. A few weeks later, I got an unexpected call from Gabriella's Uncle Lou again. He said, "Just wanted you to know. Her parents still haven't spoken to each other since the trial. Her mom moved to Florida. Her dad's trying to appeal, but it's going nowhere." I didn't say anything. I didn't need to. Then he added, "Gabriella's been trying to go back to law, but no firm wants to touch her. Her name's kind of radioactive now." I don't know what he expected me to say. Sympathy, satisfaction. What I felt wasn't either. It was just distance. Like hearing news about someone you once loved, but in another life. Another skin. Another version of you that no longer exists. So I told him the truth. "Lou, I wish her peace, but I don't wish her back." He let out a slow breath. Good. Click. One day I stopped by my old apartment building to grab a package that had been misdelivered. Just walking into that lobby made my chest tighten a little. The last time I'd stood there, I was bleeding. The super handed me the package, and as I turned to leave, he said, "Hey man, glad you're still standing." I smiled. Takes more than a few rich assholes to kill me. As I stepped outside, I realized something: that place didn't own me anymore. Not the building, not the memories, not the ghost of what happened. I walked past it without looking back. A year after everything, I got an invitation to speak at a tech conference. Not for coding, but for the Personal Ethics in Public Spaces panel. Yeah, apparently that's a thing now. I gave a short speech called "Choosing Yourself Isn't a Crime." People clapped. Some stood. I don't know why, but it felt like that moment in a movie where the character finally sees the credits roll in the distance. Afterwards, someone came up and said, "You've got that burned but built energy." I laughed. That's one way to put it. These days, I live in a new city, different coast, cleaner skyline. Still in tech, still building, but this time I work with people I trust. I see someone now. Her name's Maya. She knows everything. I told her the story on our third date thinking she'd run. She didn't. Just leaned in and said, "Remind me never to piss off your lawyer. She makes me feel like the world isn't waiting to collapse." Like trust isn't some fragile glass, but a living thing you can water. We go slow, no rings, no promises we can't keep, just presence. And that's enough. Last week I got a text from an unknown number again. It just said, "I saw the podcast. I hope you're well. I'm sorry for everything. Gabriella." I stared at it for maybe 5 minutes. Didn't reply. I wasn't angry. I just didn't need the chapter to reopen. Some things stay closed for a reason. People still ask me what I learned from all this. If I have advice. I usually say something like, if someone can't trust you, no amount of proving will fix that. And if someone lets others hurt you without flinching, they never loved you. They loved controlling the version of you they needed. But what I think I really learned is this: that survival isn't just about making it through the storm. It's about building something after it. Quietly, steadily, on your terms. I didn't expect the aftermath to feel so quiet. You'd think after a year of courtrooms trauma and emotional wreckage, I'd want fireworks. Something to shout, "Hey, you won," but no. It's weird. After the dust settles, it's just silence. And healing. But the slow kind. Like your skin finally stops burning and you realize you've got to regrow parts of yourself you didn't even know were gone. There were weeks where I barely talked to anyone. I worked, ate, slept, walked, stared at the wall. Not because I was depressed, not anymore, but because for the first time in a long-ass while, there wasn't a war to fight, and I didn't know what to do with that. So I cleaned. Like obsessively. Organizing drawers, scrubbing baseboards, donating clothes I hadn't worn in years. Even cleaned out my phone, deleted hundreds of photos I'd been avoiding. You know the ones: fake smiles, couples, selfies, blurry nights that felt sweet in the moment but just looked hollow now. I deleted Gabriella's number. Again. For the third time. I didn't do it with rage this time. I just let it go. There's something powerful in that. Quiet but heavy. Like telling your past, you don't get to rent space here anymore. One night, I was walking through the park near my new place, headphones in, hoodie up, just vibing with some lo-fi beat, when I saw this older guy teaching his kid how to ride a bike. The kid kept falling, crying, begging to quit. But the dad didn't raise his voice, didn't coddle. He just knelt next to him and said, "Hey, you're stronger than the fall," every time. And fuck, that hit. I literally stopped in the middle of the path and sat on a bench. Because that's what it felt like. My whole life had just been me learning to ride again. Wobbling, crashing, bleeding. But somehow still getting back up. That night, I wrote it on a sticky note and stuck it to my fridge. "You're stronger than the fall." Corny maybe, but it stayed there. Still is. I started reconnecting with people. Slowly. Had dinner with an old college friend who said, "Dude, you seem different, calmer." I told her I'd been through hell and back. She said, "Well, damn, hell gave you a glow up." Started seeing Maya more often too. It was casual at first. Low stakes. We'd go out for tacos, hit an indie movie crash on my couch, and fall asleep halfway through documentaries. She didn't push. Didn't ask for more than I could give. One night we were on my balcony just watching the city lights. She said, "You always look like you're listening to something no one else can hear." I smiled. I guess I'm just learning to hear myself again. She leaned her head on my shoulder and said, "Don't lose that." I didn't plan to. Then came the wedding invite. Yeah, that kind of twist. It was a mutual friend of Gabriella's and mine. We'd both been close with this couple when we were engaged. They were sweet people, and we hadn't talked much since everything blew up. So I was shocked to get a formal invitation in the mail with my name, just my name, printed on it. No +1. No mention of Gabriella. I stared at it for like 10 minutes, unsure whether this was a trap, a test, or a legit olive branch. I texted the groom, just said, "Hey, didn't expect an invite. You sure?" He replied 2 minutes later, "Of course. You're my friend too. And for what it's worth, you handled that whole thing better than I ever could have. You deserve a fresh page." So I went. The wedding was beautiful. Beach venue, soft jazz, people smiling like nothing bad had ever happened in the world. I wore a simple suit, didn't try to show off. Just blended into the background and sipped champagne like a damn ghost. Until I saw her. Not Gabriella. One of her friends. Someone who had believed the rumors at first, who posted cryptic crap online about some people hiding who they really are. That kind of passive-aggressive noise. She saw me across the room, froze, then walked over. "Ethan," she said awkwardly, adjusting her clutch. "Hey." "Hey." She looked nervous. I never said sorry for how I treated you." I just looked at her. I believed what she told me. She continued. "I thought I was protecting her. But I was wrong. I know that now." I nodded. "Takes a lot to say that." She paused. "How are you?" I could have said anything. Could have told her about the court, the podcast, the workshop, the therapy, the new love, the pain, the strength. But I just said, "Peaceful." She blinked, smiled a little, and walked away. That one word seemed to say everything. A few weeks later, I ran into Lou again, Gabriella's uncle. Dude had this gruff, no-nonsense energy, like he used to smoke cigars during math class or something. He was sitting at this hole-in-the-wall diner I'd stopped at during a road trip. Total coincidence. "Ethan," he said, raising his coffee like a salute. We caught up a little. I asked if he still talked to her. "Not often," he said. "She's doing some non-profit legal work in Oregon now, trying to rebuild her life, keep her head down." I nodded, didn't feel much. Then he said, "You ever forgive her?" I sipped my coffee, looked out the window and said, "Forgiveness isn't about saying what happened was okay. It's about letting it stop owning you." He nodded slowly. "You ever think she forgave herself?" I shrugged. "That's not my problem." I started journaling again. Yeah, laugh if you want, but it helped. Late at night, I'd write stuff like, "Sometimes survival looks like walking away when every bone in your body wants to fight." Or, "There's strength in not chasing closure." Or the one I keep pinned on my wall, "They didn't break me. They broke the version of me that needed their approval." Good. It wasn't therapy, but it felt like sweeping up the glass after a storm. Quiet, messy, necessary. One day, Maya found my old engagement ring. I'd put it in a drawer and forgotten about it. She didn't freak out or get weird. Just held it for a second and said, "You keeping this?" I looked at it. The metal was scratched, the diamond small. It didn't sparkle like I remembered. I'd once thought it was the symbol of forever. Now it was just a ring. I said, "Nah." We drove to the river later that weekend, and I tossed it in. No dramatic speech, no slow-motion music. Just a flick of the wrist and a splash. Gone. Maya squeezed my hand. That night, we grilled burgers on her tiny patio and danced barefoot to a Fleetwood Mac song she loved. I laughed more than I had in months, and that's when I knew I was finally living again.